Good morning and welcome to Rising. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've got another excellent show for you today. Two great guests. We'll be hearing from Aaron Mate about the Russiagate investigation and also Richard Hanania on why he thinks the U.S. should pursue buying Greenland. I'm here with Niall as per usual. Nice to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, Robby. Another fun-filled day, beckoning with all sorts of news to cover, so let's not waste any time. What is on your radar?
Well, a new era is dawning at Meta. CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced on Tuesday that third-party fact-checking organizations, on Monday rather, would no longer have the power to suppress disfavored speech on Facebook, a major positive step toward restoring free expression and robust debate on the platform. In his video announcing these changes, Zuckerberg conceded that moderators working at his social media properties, Facebook and Instagram, felt pressured after Donald Trump's 2016 win to address mainstream media concerns about the spread of alleged misinformation online. He now believes that their efforts to fix this supposed issue caused more problems than they solved. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote non-stop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy, says Zuckerberg. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth, but the fact-checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the U.S. That is from Mark Zuckerberg. Wow. He also detailed plans to scrap the platform's deprioritization of political topics and rein in automatic filters, a category of moderation that he says is prone to error. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, he says, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Again, wow, these changes are wildly positive in my view. It's also heartening that Zuckerberg seems to understand precisely what has gone wrong and why. Now, the company made attempts to satisfy both mainstream media institutions and even government agencies, particularly when it came to controversial political topics like COVID-19. What moderators soon discovered is that this is impossible. There's no end to the amount of speech suppression that is desired by censorship-inclined entities. Politicians in both parties dragged Zuckerberg before the U.S. Congress to answer for a vast array of alleged sins: the end of democracy, the abuse of children, tensions with Russia, and more. What unites legacy media institutions with politically motivated speech hunters in government is a growing frustration over their own loss of control with respect to guardrails of acceptable speech. Thanks to social media, these guardrails scarcely exist. By inveighing constantly against Facebook, the old guard had hoped to reinstall them. That was the theme of my 2021 book, Tech Panic: Why We Shouldn't Fear Facebook and the Future, which attempted to shed light on how bad faith arguments against the company were providing cover for greater censorship and regulation. At the time, it was a somewhat controversial thesis. Even the political right was interested in aggressively regulating big tech or breaking up the companies entirely. 4 years later, thanks to exposés like Matt Taibbi's Twitter files and my own work on the Facebook files, the public is more aware of the role that explicit government pressure played in enacting the regime of censorship. This does not mean that tech executives were blameless with respect to the moderation decisions that ensued, but it should mean that public ire is better directed at government bureaucrats who represented the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and even the White House, which meddled in the moderation decisions just as much as any other agency under President Joe Biden. Needless to say, the third-party fact-checking organizations that will lose their clout as a result of Zuckerberg's proposed changes are not too pleased. Boo-hoo. In a New York Times article about this news, with a characteristically snarky headline, Meta says fact-checkers were the problem, fact-checkers rule that false. I love it. The Poynter Institute, one of Facebook's official fact-checking organs, protests that Meta, and Meta alone, had the power to take down content. Now, that is technically true, but the fact-checkers knew exactly what the deal was. Facebook gave them official status as approved verifiers of information and explicitly stated that moderators would remove content consistent with the verifiers' recommendations. Said recommendations were frequently misguided. In December 2021, a fact-checker called Science Feedback flagged something I had written, me, for Reason, as false information. As a result, the article's image was blurred and its distribution presumably impacted. As Science Feedback later conceded, their fact check was erroneous, my article was not. The decision was eventually reversed TV host John Stossel, a colleague of mine at Reason, had a similar experience. It is reassuring to me to hear Zuckerberg acknowledge issues with this form of fact-checking. The CEO said he plans to launch a new system in line with X's Community Notes, a crowdsourced form of verification that allows all users to weigh in, more closely mirroring the Wikipedia approach. Even the New York Times begrudgingly admits that, quote, researchers have found the program can be effective when paired with other moderation strategies. In Zuckerberg's video, he concludes by noting that the First Amendment's protections for free speech have enabled the U.S. tech sector to thrive, contrasting that with much of the rest of the world. Let's listen.
Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The U.S. has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it.
This is a key admission. The U.S. is a driver of tech innovation because its government protects free speech. Said protections are imperfect, but they are stronger here than anywhere else, and they are worth maintaining, even strengthening, so that the U.S. can continue to be the most prosperous and technologically advanced country in the world. So I am fascinated to see that Zuck really gets it, and I was fighting with a lot of conservatives actually online yesterday who were like, no forgiveness for the censorship regime. And I'm like, I don't know what your theory of social change is if you just want to stay mad at someone forever, even when they admit, you were right, and now we're going backward and reversing all the policies you didn't like. At that point, I like Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, when your enemies defy you, you bring them the sword and steel, but when they submit meekly, you welcome them back into the fold. That is what I recommend for these big tech executives who now understand free speech is good, First Amendment is good, go America, F
So
yeah.
it is perhaps to your credit that you take such a sunny view of human nature in general, and Mark Zuckerberg's in particular, that you assume he has had a good faith change of heart.
No, it's cynical, go ahead.
Exactly,
Go ahead,
it is
make the
cynical,
case.
it is craven, it is about catering favour with the Trump administration, and it is part of a pattern that exhibits that desire on his part, going to dinner at Mar-a-Lago, etc., etc., etc.
But was it not then, sure, but it was craven and fear-based when they fell in line with what liberal governance wanted them to do with respect to taking down more content. That was also a fear-based drive. Sorry, don't break up our company. We will take down all that speech that you don't like. Lab leak, gone. Hunter Biden laptop, gone. Don't hurt us. CDC, FBI, White House, DHS. That was craven. Now they're undoing that. Fine, for cynical reasons, whatever. My ideal amount of pressure from the government on this company to moderate content would be 0. Mm-hmm. So yes, I'm sure it's because Trump has threatened them, but it is directionally correct. I don't care what's motivating. Because what motivated the bad stuff was not good.
Trump certainly thinks it was him that threatening him that worked. He was asked about that at his Mar-a-Lago press conference yesterday and said, probably. And look, whether Mark Zuckerberg grows his hair out and wears a medallion or not, he's still a business CEO making business CEO decisions that are geared to the profits and well-being of his company. I'm not sure that he has any deep-seated convictions about freedom of speech at all. To the substance of the issue, I think that the problem with Zuckerberg's position is that he says, well, there are problems with fact-checking, therefore we'll get rid of fact-checking, barring something modelled on community notes, but we'll get rid of the idea of any kind of arbitration from people with some expertise in the area. You and other conservatives, I think, are right in saying that a lot of watchdog groups are in fact of a liberal disposition intending to push those views. But that is a flaw or a potential flaw in moderation that could be fixed if you had other people with other expertise acting as a counterweight to it. It is not, in my judgment, and this is where we differ, it's not in my judgment a reason to wave the white flag about any kind of moderation at all.
One other quick point. So in his speech, he talked about reintroducing, I think he called it civic engagement content, but I think what he means is political news, into the timeline. You know as well as I do that from about starting in 2019, 2020, there were changes to the algorithm to dampen. It used to be that there were robust political conversations and debates happening. I would share the articles I wrote for Reason or wherever else on Facebook, and my friends and other people would argue about them. You'd see them shared multiple times. It was actually a good driver of traffic to news websites when after Facebook made this change. It was apocalyptic for a lot of us in the industry. It has the thinking being that dampening that stuff would improve the user experience because you'd have more non-political discussion and engagement with friends and family. That has not panned out whatsoever. I check Facebook every now and then. I don't use it nearly as much as I do X and Instagram. I was just scrolling yesterday. It's just like it's nothing from people I even know. It's mostly ads or like facts about entertainment properties I like. It's mush. It's nothing. So going back to the way things were on that front too, I think would be a welcome change for people who still use Facebook.
I agree. I think it has deteriorated a lot. I use it much less than I used to, and I'm significantly older than you are. It has become this older person's thing, and I don't use it very much at all for part of the reasons you say. There's almost no news even from friends on it, and even some of the entertainment-related news is just obviously wrong. It's just obviously like clickbait saying, oh, here, look at this photo of like, I don't know, Bob Dylan and it's just like something's factually wrong.
I don't know if it's AI generated. It's on some kind of level of not a real human making it. Exactly. I don't know exactly how it has become the case that the timeline is just that, but it's not good at all. All right, still to come on Rising Day, lots of great content. As I said, 2 terrific interviews. You won't want to miss them. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a minute.